When we think about trauma, we usually think of it as a story, right? A bad memory of something that happened in the past. But what if it's more than that? What if it's a physical imprint left on our mind, our brain, and our body that actually changes how we live and feel in the here and now? That's the huge idea we're digging into, based on the incredible work in The Body Keeps the Score. So to really get this, let's start with a story. It's about a Vietnam vet named Tom. Now, 10 years after he came home, his war was, well, it was anything but over. He was constantly battling nightmares, terrifying flashbacks, and this explosive rage that pushed away the family he loved so much. On the outside, he had it all, a perfect life. But on the inside, he felt completely, utterly dead. And this is where you see the impossible trap he was in. His doctor prescribed medication to stop the nightmares, and Tom refused. His reason for saying no is it's just mind-blowing. For him, the nightmares weren't just bad memories. They were his way of staying loyal to his friends who died. He felt he had to be a living memorial. So he was chained to the past, not just by horror, but by a deep sense of honor. Tom's story really brings us to the central mystery here, the one that drove decades of research. What is it that happens inside of us that completely freezes us in time? Why is it that for some people, the war, or the accident, or the abuse, why does it never truly end, even when they're totally safe? And look, this isn't just about soldiers on a battlefield. The sources of trauma are often way closer to home than we'd like to think. I mean, research shows that in the US, as many as 1 in 3 couples engages in physical violence. This is a deeply human issue, and it's happening right in our own neighborhoods, not just in far-off war zones. Okay, so to really crack this code, scientists had to figure out a way to look inside the brain. And in the 1990s, the revolution in neuroscience finally gave them the tools to literally see what was happening physically inside someone's head during a traumatic flashback. This was a total game changer. So here's what they did. Researchers designed this incredible study. They took people like Marcia, a mother who was haunted by the memory of a car accident that killed her daughter, and had them relive their trauma while they were inside a brain scanner. As someone read a script of the accident out loud to her, her body started reacting as if it was all happening again, right there, right then. But the craziest thing they found from those brain scans, the biggest discovery, it wasn't what lit up in the brain. It was what went dark. They gave this discovery a powerful name: speechless horror. It turns out, a very specific part of the brain, Broca's area, which is basically the brain's language and speech center, it just shuts down. It goes offline. This was the first real visual proof that trauma isn't a story we have trouble telling. It's an experience that our brain literally can't process into words in the first place because the part that makes coherent stories is switched off. So what you get is this totally lopsided situation in your head. During a flashback, the right side of the brain, the emotional, intuitive, visual side, is screaming. It's on high alert. But at the exact same time, the left brain, the logical, analytical, language-based side, is deactivated. And that's exactly why feelings can completely hijack our sense of reason and logic. The emotional brain is in the driver's seat. And this imbalance, it all comes down to the brain's core survival mechanism, its alarm system. What trauma does is it fundamentally recalibrates this whole system, leaving it stuck in the on position, constantly scanning for danger, even when there's none around. Okay, so deep inside your brain, you've got this thing called the amygdala. The best way to think of it is as your brain's smoke detector. It's primitive and it's incredibly fast. The second it senses a threat, the smoke, it sounds the alarm, flooding your body with stress hormones for fight or flight before you even have a chance to think about what's happening. Now, to balance that out, you have your prefrontal cortex. Think of this as the watchtower. It's slower, it's more thoughtful. The watchtower looks down at the situation and says, "Whoa, hold on, that's not a forest fire, you just burned the toast." It gives you perspective and tells the alarm system to stand down. So in a healthy brain, these two, the smoke detector and the watchtower, work as a team. But here's the problem with trauma. That whole system gets broken. The smoke detector becomes hypersensitive, screaming fire at the tiniest whiff of smoke, while the watchtower goes offline, completely unable to step in and offer perspective. Your reactive, primitive brain just takes over. And this breakdown can look like two completely opposite things. Let me tell you about Stan and Newt. They both survived the same horrific 87 car pileup. When they were put in the brain scanner, Stan relived the crash. His heart pounded, he started sweating, his smoke detector went absolutely haywire. But Newt, she had the exact opposite reaction. Her brain just shut down. She went blank. She felt nothing. It's the difference between hyperarousal and dissociation, two very different faces of the same broken alarm system. Okay, so if trauma is all about this broken connection between our rational mind and our emotional body, well, it makes sense that healing has to be about putting those pieces back together, right? It's not enough to just talk about what happened. You have to reconnect the whole system. And there are basically two main ways to do this. You've got top-down healing. This is about using your mind to calm your body. Think of things like talk therapy, understanding your story. This strengthens the watchtower. But just as important is bottom-up healing. This is about using your body to change your mind. Things like breath work, movement, yoga, touch. These help recalibrate that overactive smoke detector. You really need both to bring the whole system back into balance.
But here's the thing. This goes way beyond just one person's healing journey. Trauma is deeply connected to our social environment. An individual's pain has a ripple effect, and that means the responsibility for healing does, too.
I mean, just look at the numbers. They're staggering. In California, 70% of people in prison spent time in foster care as kids. As a country, the U.S. spends over $80 billion a year on incarceration. That's money that's just treating the symptom, not the root cause, which is so often the unsafe, traumatizing environments that shaped these people's brains from day one. And when you compare this to other places, whoa, it's a tale of two completely different systems. Countries that invest more in social safety nets, things like paid parental leave and high-quality childcare, they have massively lower incarceration rates. They're investing in creating safety from the beginning, instead of just paying for the consequences of trauma on the back end. So this all brings us back to one big final question. If trauma is the body's physical, biological response to feeling profoundly unsafe, then healing isn't just about fixing what's broken inside of us. It's about creating a world where we can all finally truly feel safe. And that makes you wonder, where does that work begin for you?